It's T and I'm back, and today it is a beautiful Saturday. I am getting ready to gear up to head out to run some errands. Number one, I'm going to get my first bottle of wine. Oslin donated to the cause. She donated for me to get my first bottle of wine, so I'm going to go out and grab that. And I'm also going to remind you that we will be on live today at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're just going to talk about life, probably some love, probably a bunch of things. I'm going to talk about my journey with 75 Hard, what my results were, and just a little bit of everything, and just have some fun and laugh and joke. And today I wanted to come to you to talk about, number one, student debt, student loan debt in particular, and budgeting to get yourself out of debt. I wanted to talk about those topics because there are things that I think are not overlooked, but they're not talked about as much as they should be talked about. And so I'm just going to talk about those things, and I'll probably start in here and head out in my car, but here we go. So if you guys are familiar with my channel, you will know that I had a quite considerable amount of student loan debt. There are things that I did along the way that were very, very good decisions. There were things that I did along the way that were very poor decisions. And I'm going to go over that and what I would suggest to you before even considering going to college, that you think about these things. Number one is the amount of debt that you will be in at the end of your journey. And it's very important for you to calculate how much debt you will be in at the end of your journey, because it's been kind of put out there that you should aim to have no more debt than 1 year's salary of your job once you complete your program. Now, that's the tricky part. The tricky part is you don't really know what that salary is going to be. So what I would suggest is that you research the career field that you plan to go into, and you look at the lowest spectrum of earnings for that field. A lot of people make a mistake of looking at that high end, thinking this is what they're going to be making, and you may make that eventually. But in the beginning, it's very, very doubtful that that's where you're going to start. You're going to start at the lowest end of the spectrum. And don't only look at career fields that are specifically your career field. Look at all of the fields that could be incorporated into your degree. So there may be things that you do inside of that specific, I'm going to call it for all intents and purposes, genre of job. There may be specific things that you do within that job that could be incorporated into other fields that aren't even your direct field, if you get what I'm saying. So maybe a portion of your studies is finance topics. That means that you could explore areas that relate to that specific area of learning that you received during your degree program. So I think a lot of folks too pigeonhole themselves into the exact career field that you're going into or that you specialize in your degree, instead of opening their mind to other options that could fit into what they have learned. So be very specific and be very open to looking at other fields that aren't your direct field, but that correlate in some way to the things that you have learned in your degree path. Now, one mistake I made, I went to school initially. I was 17 years old. You guys will know that I had my daughter at 17 years old. I was actually 17 and a little shy of 18 when I first started college. I received a full scholarship to college initially. I went and I dropped out. Not only did I go and I dropped out, but I also acquired student loans in that time. Why? Why did I take student loans? I did not need the student loans, but It was suggested to me to take them because, you know, I wouldn't have so much pressure on me from working because I was trying to work, go to school, and I had a infant daughter. I understood the reasoning behind it and the rationale, but looking back now, what I should have done was never took student loans at that time. That accounted for nearly 30K, well over 25K of my 76K in debt for my student loans. Now, if you saw my interview with Queen's Alchemy, I talked about the dropping out part, but I didn't talk about the fact that I went back to school. I did go back to school in my late 20s. I was just shy of 30 years old. I went back. I ended up completing, well, actually, in my earlier 20s, I got an associate's degree. It really didn't pan out for me in getting a job in my field, but I ended up in a related field from some of the things that I learned, and that was in finance. And then after that, in my late 20s, right before I turned 30 years old, I went back to school, did an additional 2 years to get my bachelor's degree, and then went directly into getting my master's degree. That is where the $76,000 comes into play. What did I do right along the way? Because, of course, dropping out was not such a good idea. Well, what I did right is that I knew that I had a specific amount of money that I was not going to exceed. And if that meant that I'm going to have to work another job to pay the remaining balance of my student debt, if that meant that I couldn't finish right then, that is what it was going to be. And so I did do that right, but I didn't learn it until later on down the road. I also took advantage of the fact that I had an employer that would reimburse student expenses. In fact, I'll say I did it wrong and right because I didn't look into it early. I waited. And then I found out about it, learned what I needed to do to meet those requirements, and then I took advantage of it. I wish I had started earlier in taking advantage of that option because they did pay a significant amount of money for me to complete my master's degree. And honestly, if I had done that earlier, I would have had less debt, and who knows. But I do not regret the decision I made to go to school because it did, in fact, benefit me. I did not exceed the amount of money that I would make in a year of my earning potential. And so having the student loan, although it is a large amount, when I say the amount, it's like, oh my God, it's a lot of money. But in the grand scheme of things and where I ended up salary-wise, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. And it's definitely not as bad as I've seen some people. I never got into the six-figure mark. And so I'm thankful, but there are steps along the way. So if your employer offers any kind of tuition reimbursement, please look into it. See what the requirements are. My degree is not in the field directly that I'm in. However, a lot of the classes that I took directly correlate to what I do. And so I was able to get those classes paid for because if you can show the correlation, I was in there. So I did that. Every class that I could get that, you know, this has something directly related, this has something directly related, I would apply for tuition reimbursement for it. And I am thankful for that because it significantly reduced my debt. I probably would have been in the six-figure range if I didn't do that. This is Editing T here, and I also wanted to say, please do not overlook public service jobs. There are several jobs in public service that you can get your loans forgiven. I was actually going to go into public service when I first started my degree program, and I just ended up deciding to stay with my current employer. But there are options out there for you to go to school and get those loans forgiven. Do not overlook those measures and take that step. All right, now, y'all, let's talk about some hard truths. Okay? Let's talk about whether or not you have a money problem or a spending problem. This is going to be a tough one. Sometimes it's not how much you make. It's what you're kicking out every month. Doggone shame to say. But oftentimes we think the immediate fix to everything is, okay, I need to make more money. I just need to make more money. And I can tell you with a high degree of certainty that lots of times it's not the money. It's you. You're literally kicking out dough for useless reasons. You're kicking out dough for trivial nonsense that is small dollar items, but you're doing it a lot. You're doing it multiple times a week, month, year. And that little amount of money is costing you really big in the end, in the grand scheme of things. That's how it works a lot of the time. I hate to say it. I really hate to say it, but it's the truth. So only you can answer. Do you have a money problem? Meaning an income problem? Or do you have a spending issue that you need to get under control? If it is the latter, you need to evaluate where your money is going. If you have no clue where your money is going, how on earth do you expect to fix the problem? You can't fix it if you don't even know where your money is going. Are you even looking at what you're buying? What's coming out of your bank account? Have you taken a look at your bank account just to see if you're buying things that you could get rid of, that you could not have, that aren't necessary for you to live a fulfilling and happy life? Things like extra coffees, things like designer clothes, things like designer shoes, things like, goodness gracious, it could be small items like treats or going out to eat every day for your lunch break, or all those little small items and big items could be your downfall. That could be where your money is being wasted. Now, it could be that, well, I only get, Starbucks when I'm heading into work in the morning. Okay, 5 days a week you're getting Starbucks? Okay. If you're getting Starbucks 5 days a week, and it's every week of the month, you're spending hundreds of dollars. Hundreds of dollars that could be helping you pay down debt. Hundreds of dollars that could be going toward your emergency fund savings. And don't get me started on if you're just buying designer items. And believe me, because I got to be real. I know for a fact that it gets old when all of your money is going to things just to keep a roof over your head and keep yourself fed and all of that. I know that it's not fun. It's not a fun thing. And sometimes we just break down and do things simply because we're like, well, I don't want to work my whole life away to never get any benefit out of it. I agree. But in that instance, you need to budget yourself in. Budget you. A line item of your budget should be you. You are a part of your budget. Things you want. things that you just want to treat yourself with should be a line item in your budget. Now, you shouldn't go overboard with it. No reason to, like, you know, deter your debt-free journey or your bills or anything to do that. But if you have a little extra and you want to budget yourself in, do that. I encourage it because it will help you to remain steadfast on your debt-free journey. But if you're just doing it because you just want to spend money, you're not budgeting yourself in, you're just blowing money whenever you see fit because you feel like you deserve it, yeah, then that needs some revision. That needs to be looked into. And now let's talk about making more money. Sometimes the situation you're in, you're not able to pay it. Like you just can't. Making what you make, you can't pay the bills and tackle debt. In that case, the only solution is to make more money. And it sucks to say that, you know, because so many people will be like, well, it's easy to say just make more money. The job market's terrible. It is. But sometimes you have to get creative. You may have to do some side hustles like Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, your YouTube channel. Putting effort in that to get monetized and have that bring in some money. Any little thing can be something that you specifically do just for your debt purposes only. Meaning, I could say this YouTube channel will be, once I get monetized, would be for my debt only. You know what I mean? You could say Uber, whatever you make in Uber is going to be for your debt only. But sometimes you have to make more money. Now, the way I did it is not the norm in today's society. I've just been with the same place for going on 18 years. It'll be 18 years in June. Right at Juneteenth, as a matter of fact, will be my 18-year anniversary. And I worked my way from the very bottom to management. It was very difficult road. It was not something that came easy, for sure. But it was something that I did because there was the potential to grow. And that's what I want to talk about. Many times we focus on income. Sorry about the noise, you guys. Many times we focus on income. And we focus on how much money are we making right in this moment. We focus on benefits. We focus on time off. All of those are significant things that should be focused on, by the way. I'm not trying to say they shouldn't be focused on, because they absolutely should be considered in any job opportunity. But lots of times, we don't focus on upward growth. Does my position have a potential for me to grow? Because if I can't grow, if I can't make more money and grow, then I literally am signing up for a dead end that has no potential to lead anywhere. So if I don't have the potential to make more, then this is what it's going to be. Yeah, you might get your annual raises, but you're not going to be able to significantly boost to go from significant increases. It's just going to be whatever the standard is, 3%, 5%, whatever that is. But you want the ability to be able to have upward mobility. I don't think a lot of people think about upward mobility when they're thinking about their job. It is very, very important that you know that you can either work your way up, or that the job is going to give you experience that will allow you to go somewhere else and hit that upward mobility. Those two factors. Is it going to give me something that's going to be a commodity for my next position? That is something to really think about and consider when you're taking your job, and that directly ties into school too. When you're trying to find your career field, what can I do? Yeah, I got to start at the starting point. I got to start here. I got to start here because I'm fresh out of school. But does this place give me the potential to move further? Do I have options within this place that can take me somewhere? Or will this experience give me what I need to go to company X that has those potentials? Does this company give me those skills that I can take over here to company X and make a change? Those are all considerations that you should be thinking about when you're deciding on your work career. Because at the end of the day, I know there are a lot of people that, now, especially now, we are more in the realm of wanting to set your own hours, wanting to have that freedom, wanting to have, and that is an admirable thing. Like, it's a good thing. I'm not, believe me, I'm not downplaying that at all, because part of the reason that I'm still with my company is because I work from home. I have a very flexible working environment, and it allows me to be more productive. It allows me to have more time with my family. There are perks to that, so I understand that completely. I'm not trying to downplay that, but sometimes you have to put the work in. You're going to have to put the work in to get the respect in that field to demand more. Sometimes it just takes that. And but you want to be in a place where you can actually use that potential, that you're not just like sitting in one spot and you're never going to go anywhere. There's nowhere for you to go. There's no move, not even a lateral move that can take you to another place. So I feel like these are all things that should be considered when you are looking for work.